Have you ever stopped to think about what money really is? That thing so many people chase, sacrifice for, worry about. Does it actually exist the way we think it does? Or are we dealing with an illusion we've all agreed to treat as truth? Money, as solid as it seems, is a symbolic construct. A piece of paper, a number on a screen, a shared idea. It only has value because we believe it does. But if everyone stopped believing in the system that holds it up, what would it be? Nothing. That's where the mystery kicks in. Money isn't real in the way you've been taught. It's not metal, paper, or a bank balance. It's a representation, a reflection of something deeper. Your vibe, your mindset, your relationship with value. Wallace D. Wattles didn't see money as the endgame. He saw it as a byproduct. Money shows up when your mind's tuned into an invisible principle, a primal source from which everything flows, including wealth. That source isn't something you can see. It's not in banks or external opportunities. It's on a subtler plane, where everything takes shape before it becomes real. Money, like health, relationships, or any experience, is the result of what you hold in the unseen. Your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, intentions. It's an outward reflection of an inner state, and that's why it can be drawn to you without grinding, but not without real intention. What makes money mysterious is that it follows laws beyond logic or hustle. How many people do you know who work their tails off but stay stuck in scarcity? And how many others seem to pull wealth in effortlessly, like it's drawn to them? The difference isn't in the grind, it's in the vibe. It's in the mindset. It's in how they align with what's invisible but runs everything. So before you learn to attract money, you've got to get this. It's not real in a physical sense. It's real in a vibrational sense. It exists as a response to your mental and emotional state. That's the key. And once you see that clearly, everything shifts. You stop chasing money and start pulling in what it represents. Money is one of humanity's best maintained illusions, not because it's fake, but because it only exists within a shared mental framework. It's a collective belief that's taken shape over time, a symbol of exchange, value, and security that only has power because millions of people unconsciously agree to give it that power. Money is an idea, not a substance. And getting that changes everything. When you hold a bill in your hand, you're not touching value, you're touching paper. The value lies in the belief you and everyone around you have about what that paper stands for. That means money has no power on its own. It has the power we give it. And that power comes from the human mind, your mind. That's why money can feel abundant to some and scarce to others. It's not the economy that shifts, it's the level of consciousness you bring to it. Wallace D. Wattles got this crystal clear. To him, wealth was created by those who understood the invisible framework behind the visible world. He taught that it's not about competing for the money that's out there, but about tapping into the infinite source where everything comes from, the original thinking substance. And that substance doesn't respond to economic logic. It responds to creative thought, held with faith and gratitude. The trap is believing money is out there, separate from you, scarce, or up for grabs. That mindset reinforces the illusion of lack. You put yourself in a place of not enough, and that place creates more of the same, more not enough. The belief that money is hard, scarce, or limited is what keeps it out of reach. Not because it's actually limited, but because your mind sets limits in the field of possibilities. This collective belief, when left unquestioned, becomes your personal truth, and that personal truth shapes your reality. That's why attracting money without grinding starts with undoing the mental effort you put into believing it's tough, out of reach, or rare. The first step is seeing money for what it really is, a reflection of your inner vibe, your relationship with value, worth, and abundance. When you shift your belief, you shift your frequency. And when you shift your frequency, the field responds. With new forms, including money, behind everything you see, there's something you don't see. An invisible, living, intelligent substance, highly sensitive to human intention. Wallace D. Wattles called it the original thinking substance. It has no form of its own, but can take any form. It's like moldable cosmic material, responding to clear, focused, creative thought. And it's from this that everything manifests: ideas, opportunities, health, relationships, and yeah, money. This substance isn't somewhere far off. It's here now, everywhere. It fills the space between atoms, flows through your body, lives in every thought you have. And most importantly, it's waiting for instructions. Creative thought, held with clarity, sends commands to this substance. And it responds, always, precisely, without judgment, just in alignment with the image you form and the feeling you hold. So money doesn't come from hard work or luck. It comes from how you interact with this invisible substance. When you picture a prosperous life, you're not just daydreaming, you're shaping. You're starting to form something in the subtle field that sooner or later will find a concrete expression in your world. But that only happens when the thought is held consistently with feeling. Most people think in a scattered way. One day they want wealth, the next they doubt it. One moment they feel grateful, then they're drowning in worry. That back and forth weakens the mental image, confuses the creative substance, and slows the manifestation. Wattles taught, think with purpose, feel with certainty, act like you already have it, and the substance will respond, shaping reality. To match that dominant vibe, understanding that an invisible substance creates everything means you're never at the mercy of chance. You're in constant conversation with the universe, whether you realize it or not. Your thoughts are commands, your feelings are confirmations, and your efficient action is the final step that turns the vibe into form. Money doesn't come from outside, it comes from this field. And you're already in it, always have been. Most people spend their lives chasing money. They work harder, study more, sacrifice time, health, and freedom in a race with no finish line. But the more they chase, the more money slips away. Not because they're wrong to want it, but because they're moving in the opposite direction of what actually creates abundance. The problem isn't the action itself, it's where the action comes from. The belief that money is outside, far off, tough, or scarce. When you chase something with effort, you're energetically saying you don't have it. And that's exactly what the creative field picks up on. The universe doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you vibrate as true. If your inner truth is, I don't have and I need to earn it, it's hard, then that's what gets reflected. In this context, effort becomes resistance. It comes from scarcity and reinforces scarcity. Wallace D. Wattles was blunt. It's not about chasing, but acting from a creative state. Someone who knows everything they want already exists in the original substance, and that by holding a clear image with faith and gratitude, they start pulling that reality toward them. No need for competition, struggle, or desperation. Just efficient work, done in alignment with elevated thought, without rush or anxiety, but with focus. What really works is thinking creatively and feeling with certainty. It's living from the inside out. It's adopting the inner stance of someone already in the flow of prosperity. That's not a fantasy, it's a frequency. And everything in the universe responds to frequency. The image you hold in your mind, with emotion and repetition, creates a form in the invisible field. And that form starts attracting matching experiences. So, you don't need to chase money harder. You need to drop the belief that it's out of reach. Flip the flow. Instead of running after it, you become magnetic. Instead of burning out, you align. Instead of reacting to lack, you act from the certainty that you're already being provided for. When that shift happens, money stops being a distant target and starts showing up as a natural outcome of your inner state. Creative thinking is an art few master, not because it's complicated, but because it demands something rare: total presence. Most people think reactively. They think based on what they see, hear, or lack. When the bill comes, they think debt. When the paycheck's late, they think scarcity. When they look at an empty wallet, they think lack. That's not creative thinking, it's conditioned thinking. And that kind of thinking doesn't unlock wealth, it blocks it. Creative thinking is different. It steps away from the apparent reality and connects to the invisible reality, where everything begins. Wattles taught that the universe is made of a living substance that moves in response to clear mental images, held with intention and faith. When you think creatively, you send silent commands to the creative field, and that field responds by rearranging the reality around you. But what makes a thought creative? First, it has to come from within, not from comparing yourself to others, reacting to fear or stressing about lack. It's a thought rooted in certainty, even if the outside world doesn't back it up yet. You form a precise mental image. A life of freedom, a steady flow of money, opportunities showing up with ease. And that image has to feel real. You don't just picture it like a distant observer. You live it internally, with emotion. That feeling is the secret. Thinking without. Feeling doesn't create form. Feeling without direction doesn't manifest. Wattles said the universe doesn't deny any request made with true faith and efficient action. The original substance doesn't judge desires as good or bad. It just responds to clarity and consistency. If you think in a scattered way, waffling, between desire and doubt, you don't send a strong enough signal. But if you hold steady to the creative image, even when appearances say otherwise, reality starts to shift. And then something wild happens. Money shows up without the traditional grind. It doesn't come from struggle. It comes because you've created inner space to receive it. You thought with purpose, felt with truth, acted with faith. And that's irresistible to the creative field. The right ideas show up. The right people appear. Decisions become clear. And the flow of wealth starts moving toward you, not as a reward, but as a reflection of your new state of being. There's a fine line between wanting something and actually living that reality. That line isn't made of clock time, endless hustle, or constant sacrifice. It's built on two invisible but insanely powerful pillars: quiet faith and efficient action. One without the other is incomplete. Together, they form the most direct bridge between what you imagine and what the world starts handing you. Silent faith doesn't need to prove it believes. It doesn't show up in loud words or forced displays of confidence. It lives quietly, in a place so deep inside you that it doesn't waver with appearances. Even when nothing seems to be happening, it doesn't panic. It watches, it waits, it knows. It's the kind of faith that doesn't need external signs to keep going. It's the faith that gets that everything is already in motion, even when your eyes can't see it yet. Wallace D. Wattles taught that this true faith is the invisible force that activates the original substance. When you hold a mental image with faith, you're literally shaping the unseen. And more than that, you're creating a vibe. The universe, as a creative field, responds to that vibe, not the effort itself, but the state you hold while you act. And that's where the second pillar comes in: efficient action. Efficient action doesn't mean doing more. It means doing it right. It's not about overloading yourself, but about precision. You act from faith, not doubt. You move like you've already got it, not like you're still begging for it. This kind of action has a different rhythm. It's not impulsive, it's inspired. It doesn't come from urgency, but from intuition. It's not driven by desperation, but by inner direction. When you act with this vibe, even small moves spark big shifts. The common mistake is splitting these two forces. People with faith but no action wait for miracles that never show up. People who act without faith burn out trying to control everything. True manifestation happens when faith and action walk hand in hand. One holds the inner state steady, the other translates that state into the outer world. And it's in this balance that money shows up, not with the usual grind, but with total commitment to the process. When you combine silent faith with efficient action, something starts moving around you. The universe responds. Circumstances shift, opportunities pop up, but not randomly, precisely. Because you're not trying to force reality anymore, you're working with it. You send out a clear vibrational signal and act like the answer's already on its way. And it comes. This is the dance between the invisible and the visible, between desire and reality, between thought and form. Silent faith is the signal. Efficient action is the movement. When these two meet, manifestation stops being a theory and becomes inevitable. Money then isn't some far-off goal anymore. It's a byproduct, a reflection of the alignment between who you are inside and what you're creating outside. One of the sneakiest, most limiting beliefs that block the flow of money is the idea of worthiness. So many people think they need to prove themselves, suffer or achieve something huge before they deserve wealth. They tie money to extreme effort, sacrifice, pain. But the universe doesn't respond to how much pain you carry. It responds to the frequency you give off. And if your vibe says, "I'm not worthy, I'm not ready, or it's not for me," that's exactly what shows up. Worthiness isn't a permission slip someone hands you. It's an inner state you claim. When you feel worthy of receiving, you align with the energy of abundance. When you feel inferior, guilty, or disconnected, you vibe with scarcity, even if you want wealth with every fiber of your being. The creative field, as Wattles explained, is neutral. It doesn't judge, doesn't care about your past, doesn't demand proof. It just responds to the mental image you hold and the emotional state that goes with it. Your financial vibe is the energetic signature you present to the invisible field. It doesn't depend on how much cash is in your bank account. It depends on how you feel about money. You can have next to nothing and still vibe with prosperity. You can have a ton and still vibe with fear, scarcity, or self-doubt. That's why the secret is never about what you have. It's about how you position yourself inside when it comes to the flow of wealth. The hidden truth is that money responds to this vibe. It flows to those who receive it naturally, with gratitude, with ease. It stays away from those who treat it with guilt, fear, or resentment. Often, the struggle to attract money isn't about what's happening out there. It's about the inner programming saying, "This isn't for me." It's wrong to have too much, or rich people are greedy. These ideas are like hidden code that shuts down your ability to receive, even when you genuinely want it. To change this, it's not enough to just want more money. You've got to raise your vibe. You've got to get comfortable with abundance before it even shows up in your hands. You've got to practice a quiet state of worthiness that doesn't need excuses, just presence. When you vibe with worthiness, money doesn't come as an intruder. It comes as a welcome guest. It settles in, it sticks around, and it multiplies because it's found an inner space where it can flow. The creative field doesn't hear your voice, it feels your frequency. You can say you want prosperity, but if you're vibing guilt or fear, the field responds to what you feel. Shift your vibe, and you shift what you attract. Align with worthiness, and you'll find money was never far away. It was just waiting for you to become a receptive field for it to land in. Wanting money on its own doesn't guarantee prosperity. In fact, it's often the misunderstood desire, the one born from lack, fear, or urgency, that triggers the opposite of what you're hoping for. It sounds like a paradox, but it's one of the trickiest laws of creation. You can be asking for wealth while vibing scarcity. And it's that hidden vibe the creative field picks up on. A mind fueled by worry doesn't create abundance. When it's constantly thinking about bills, debts, delays, and limits, it's feeding mental images that become molds. Wallace D. Wattles was clear. The universe responds to the mental image you hold with emotion and persistence. And if that image is one of lack, that's what gets delivered. Not as punishment, but as an exact reflection of the signal you sent. That's the trap. People think they're desiring money, but what they're really activating is a vibrational field of anxiety, scarcity, distrust. The universe doesn't interpret your requests based on what you say you want. It responds to the dominant energy you're putting out. If you think I desperately need money, what's vibrating is desperation, not abundance. And the creative field hands you more situations that match that state. To break out of this trap, you need a subtle but profound shift. Stop thinking of money as something you lack, and start feeling it as something already in motion heading your way. This isn't about denying reality, it's about realigning your vibe. It's picturing yourself with freedom, ease, flow, and holding that image with the silent faith of someone who gets the invisible nature of creation. When you catch yourself thinking about lack, debt, or fear, stop. Notice the thought, but don't feed it. Go back to your creative image. Return to the state of someone already tapped into the flow of prosperity. Scarcity wants to keep you reactive, desperate, stuck in survival mode. But you weren't made to survive. You were made to create. When you free yourself from this mental trap, you start to feel a lightness. Opportunities show up without pressure. Money starts flowing more freely. And not because the world out there changed, but because your inner vibe did. You stopped being a transmitter of fear and became a broadcaster of confidence. And that new frequency transforms everything around you, starting with what seemed the most stubborn, your financial reality. The key to attracting money without grinding isn't about having more. It's about being more conscious, more present, more aligned with the reality you want to create. One of the most powerful yet often overlooked principles of manifestation is this: live like you already have it. Think, speak, breathe, and act like the reality you want is already in motion, already yours, already real. Because in the invisible field, it is. This isn't about denial or playing pretend. It's vibrational science. When you position yourself internally as someone already living abundance, your mind sends clear signals to the creative field, and the universe responds. Wallace D. Wattles taught, to receive what you want, you must become the person who lives that reality. Not later, now, not when circumstances allow, but before they shift. That's the secret. But how do you live like you already have it? It starts on the inside. You nurture thoughts that hold up your vision. You watch your mental habits and swap doubt for certainty, rush for presence, comparison for gratitude. You talk less about what's missing and more about what's coming. You dial down the anxiety and crank up the intention. You don't fake having it. You vibe like you know it's on its way. That subtle shift changes everything. Over time, your emotional state gets in line too. You start feeling the peace of someone who trusts, the lightness of someone who knows they've already been answered, the confidence of someone who doesn't need to chase anymore because they're on the right path. And then your actions shift. You stop moving from desperation and start moving with precision. Decisions flow, ideas spark, opportunities show up, because the outer world starts mirroring the inner state you've chosen to live in. The wildest part? When you do this, you stop asking for money. You start allowing it to come. You're not hunting for opportunities anymore. You're getting invites. You've stopped searching and started radiating. And that shift from seeker to source changes everything. Not because you forced it, but because you finally got it. The field responds to who you are, not what you want. When you live like you already have it, you don't create resistance. You flow. And in that flow, everything finds its natural way. To you, including money. When it comes, it doesn't shock you, it confirms, it doesn't fill a void. It amplifies a vibe that was already there. So don't wait to feel prosperous until the money shows up. Feel it now. And it'll come, because it can't ignore the exact frequency calling it back to your field. Everything you've heard so far builds on one simple, game-changing idea. Money, as the world sees it, isn't real. It's a representation, a symbol, an illusion kept alive by collective belief. It shifts forms, changes value, gets manipulated. It's fragile, fleeting, controllable. You're not really chasing money. You're chasing what it promises: freedom, security, possibilities. But what if you realize those don't depend on money? What if those realities are already available, just in a different way? True prosperity isn't in the numbers, the bills, or the bank account. It's in the vibe you hold every day. It's in the clarity of your intention, the peace in your thoughts, the alignment between what you imagine and what you feel. It's in the flow you allow when you stop forcing, chasing, begging, and start recognizing you're already in an infinite field of creation. Wallace D. Wattles wasn't preaching about stacking cash. He was preaching about living life to the fullest, and for that, he taught that wealth should be a byproduct, not the goal. Prosperity is real when it starts inside. When you live with a creative mind, silent faith, efficient action, and clear vision, you create a magnetic field that makes money a natural reflection, not an obsession. And that's when everything shifts. Money stops being a hurdle and becomes a messenger of your inner vibe. If money isn't real in an absolute sense, then you're free. Free to build a new relationship with it. Free to break away from the scarcity you were taught. Free to become the source of what you used to crave from the outside. That freedom is what defines real prosperity. And it starts the moment you choose to think with awareness, feel with truth, and act with purpose. And now that this message has reached you, not just as info but as a spark, know that it's only the beginning. More keys are waiting for you. And a lot of them are in the videos popping up on your screen right now. Keep going down this path. Let yourself dive deeper, because the more you expand your awareness, the more the real world, the one that matters, starts rearranging itself around you.